Well, to all music educators, I salute you. Um, these are challenging times within every school system. I know you're fighting the good fight, um, and so I'm not here to lecture anyone, but to encourage, as you're doing, Scott, and I thank you for this.
I reached out to a assortment of professional jazz musicians and asked them why they believe jazz education was important. For this first week of Jazz Appreciation Month here on Masters of the Musiverse, we've been hearing from them: Aubrey Logan, John Fedchuk, and now Peter Erskine. Peter has played the drums since he was 4 years old. He's known for his versatility and his love of working in different musical contexts. These numbers are big. You ready for this? He appears on 700 albums and film scores. He has won 2 Grammy Awards, plus an honorary doctorate from the Berklee School of Music. Peter was very gracious with his time. I believe he and I talked about it for an hour. And here's a short snippet of that conversation.
Well, I'm here today with Peter Erskine, um, outstanding percussionist. I don't even know where to begin. I'm thrilled that you would take some time to talk to us about why is jazz education important.
Thanks, Scott, and greetings to everyone watching. Um, we had a discussion. My colleague professors and I at the Thornton School of Music here at the University of Southern California. When I say here, I don't mean literally because um, in this time of lockdown, we're all teaching from our homes. So I'm in my home studio here. But in fact, educators all across the country are doing a wonderful job. And when this question came up before the pandemic, uh, uh, was there really a need to have big bands in schools? Because if you look at it through the the kind of prism that big bands in schools were vocational training uh, uh, environments for those students to go on to join these bands and go on the road and get professional experience, and it was the big bands were often viewed as the doorway or gateway to professional music. So um, the thought was expressed: if there aren't touring big bands, why do we still have big bands in school? And I raised my hand and I said, well, the University of Southern California uh, has a pretty outstanding water polo program, among other sports. And I can't think of too many professional water polo leagues or teams. Um, so, what's the purpose? Well, the purpose of any collaborative class or setting uh, is to teach teamwork, and teamwork uh, is is something that involves not only willing to be accommodating and work with others, learning how to work with others, but certainly how to be a good listener, which I guess is a very important part of working with others. In an ensemble, uh, everyone learns to listen, and the resultant magic when people combine their energies and their talents, uh, and in the case of music, their sound, it brings a blend that it's an experience that's unmatched. And I've tried my hand at a number of different things, and of course, you're asking why is jazz education important? Yes, I'm biased, but um, the magic of ensemble playing, um, I think, sparks a lot of neurons. It really gets the brain going. It also gets the heart and the soul going. I don't think we can underestimate that. You're younger than I am, but in the '60s, I mean, every television program, it either was overtly jazz sounding or was arranged and written by someone with deep jazz roots. Whether it was I Dream of Jeannie or McHale's Navy. Um, it was all jazz. Even rock radio stations, WBB. Even their little tags were more or less jazz sounding. Um, so jazz was very much part of our language, and then other music became uh, more common, more popular,
Yeah.
promoted in a different way, and utilized, much as jazz was, and that's the natural state of things. Things develop, um, but even the best, let's say, like rock personalities, musicians, sooner or later, most of them turned to jazz. Bob Dylan did it. He realized he needed to get back in touch with standards and the music that had a swing feel that so influenced him. Neil Peart, who passed away just over a year ago, the drummer from Rush, he came to this very room for a number of lessons because he wanted to get more in touch with jazz and not only how to do that, but um, this idea of taking taking chances, making choices, uh, improvising. Um, because it changed the way he started approaching his nightly solo with Rush, and he felt liberated. He felt freed from having to overplan what he did. So planning, of course, is an important part of what we do.
Can I ask you something? Kind of going back to improvisation. I've used this analogy maybe too much, and I'm wondering how you feel about it because I don't know if it is intrinsic in jazz education. But so I talk to my students and other people about how really to improvise well, you don't just pick your instrument up and start playing. You have to know about structure and you have to know what the form is. You have to know your scales. And so in order to be improvised well, there's a lot of preparation that goes into that improvisation. And I feel like that is a thing with life too. Like when I think about my teaching, I do a lot of planning so that when I get on the podium and things start going poorly, I've got a background of a form and a structure. Do you think that jazz teaches that, or am I giving jazz too much credit to teaching people that?
Well, Scott, I don't think you can ever give jazz too much credit. Planning, of course, is an important part of what we do. Learning your instrument well enough so you're not having to. Which finger do I push for an F sharp? Or wrestling or fighting with the instrument. But I will submit that the most essential skill or asset to have when learning any kind of music is to listen. And when you listen to the music, you learn the language, you learn the vocabulary. And I tell my students at the beginning of every term or course of study, I can make this real simple. Just play what you'd like to hear. Now, if there were if this were a class about French poetry, and I would just say, it's very simple. Just speak what you wish to hear, and you don't know the first thing about the French language, you'll have difficulty being poetic. And after Neil had come, word got out, and a number of other rock drummers thought that, let's go study with Peter Erskine. And I stopped accepting students because I told my wife, I said, it feels like there's a knock at the door, and I answer the door, and there's a guy wearing a beret holding a big loaf of bread, and he goes, "Hi, I want to be French. Okay. You know, parlez-vous français?
Right.
Huh? and you know, if I talk with a French accent like this because I watched the Pink Panther, you know, it's not going to fool anybody. So you can't do a bad imitation of music or anything else. So jazz education teaches you the history of the music. It teaches you, if you learn the history of jazz music, you then begin to appreciate and understand the history of all the music you're hearing around you today. It's all built on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Last thing before we go is there anything I'm springing this one on you, so forgive me for springing this question on you, but is there anything you would like to say to encourage music educators to make jazz education a part of what they do on a, at least a weekly basis?
Well, to all music educators, I salute you. These are challenging times within every school system. I know you're fighting the good fight, and so I'm not here to lecture anyone, but to encourage, as you're doing, Scott, and I thank you for this, to broaden um, the musical palette for yourselves and for your students, because there's just many wonderful riches there, and and if you have any interest or affection um, in any music that's been created since the beginning of the 20th century, then jazz education uh, will only enhance not only your understanding of all that, but all of your students' understanding, and can lead to really great things. And I think it's just an essential part of any musical education.
Thank you, Peter. I appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Just sign off. What a lucky uh, kid I was. Look at me here. I was 7 years old, getting a drum lesson from Louis Hayes.
Oh, that's in one of your books, right? That picture, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I started young. I was very lucky. I had the support of not only my parents but my brother and sisters. I just want to wish everyone, good health and good music. And thank you, Scott. It's been
Yeah,
fun.
thank you.
All right, I'm gonna sign off.
Thanks, Peter.